Well, hello everyone, and welcome into our Sunday afternoon programs here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, my name's Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from the hub of the universe, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm so glad you could join us on a Sunday afternoon. And I want to acknowledge too that it's 4th of July. Now, the witness is supposed to 3rd of July, 2nd July today, but it's like a July 4th weekend, right? But anyways, the witnesses, they don't have anything to do with 4th of July. As a matter of fact, you could be called into the back room for going to a 4th of July parade or even going and watching fireworks. Some elders have a problem with that. That's nationalistic. Shouldn't be doing that. But anyways, happy freedom. Happy Freedom Day. Whether you are glad to be free and living here in America, which I am, or whether you're glad to be free out of the Watchtower, which I am, as well as double Freedom Day for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, I have to tell you, I don't know if you listened to the program Saturday night, not last night, but the week before. And we had a woman on there. Her name was Deborah Hines. Now, we have had many people in the 17 years coming on the Six Cranes. Deborah Hines was terribly sexually abused when she was a young girl in the Watchtower. Actually, she was abused and raped as a young girl while in Brooklyn headquarters, Brooklyn, New York. And she came on, she told her horrific story to Barbara Anderson. That was a week ago last night. And I have to tell you, that program got a lot of traction. A lot of people are watching it now on YouTube and making comments. But here's the point. Here is the point. Deborah Hines, well, she made a complaint against the Watchtower, sued them, and she got a settlement. I can't tell you how much. We can't say that. But I want you to know that she was so happy to come on and tell her story. But Erwin Zalkin, do you know Erwin Zalkin? Well, he's the big time lawyer out of San Diego, California. And Erwin Zalkin represented Deborah Hines in that case against the Watchtower. So Erwin Zalkin got wind that Deborah Hines was on the Six Screens Telenetwork, and he wants to come on. Erwin Zalkin wants to come on. Now, he may be coming on next Saturday night. I'm not sure. If it's not next Saturday night, it'll be 2 weeks from then. So he's going to be coming on Barbara Anderson's program. Barbara Anderson has a program on the network here, and it's called The Inside. It's not The Inside Story. I'm sorry. It's Watchtower Insider Tells All. Barbara Anderson. So she's going to bring Erwin on. Now, I wanted to tell you what Erwin Zalkin had to say about the Watchtower. Yeah, I hope, and I know we do have active witnesses listening in, but I have to tell you, Mr. Zalkin is a man and a half. He knows where the bones are buried, and he knows, excuse me, I got to clear my throat. A lot of pollen in the air up here, folks. But Erwin Zalkin, he wants to come on the Six Screens. He said to Barbara he's trying to find a venue where he can really reach out and tell people how evil the Watchtower is. He says he deals with many organizations where they are accused of pedophilia, sex abuse on children. Zalkin, that's basically what he specializes in. So it's not just the Watchtower that he comes against. He comes against other groups as well. But he says of all the groups that he files complaints about in court, guess who's the worst? Guess who lies the most? Watchtower. Watchtower, he says, are big liars. So he's going to be coming on, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Zalkin coming on the Six Screens. Very, very good. So anyways, I came across an article yesterday. I mentioned it last night, but I came across this article on the internet. Now, there's a medical journal. Now, this isn't a magazine you buy in a newsstand in New York City. This is an actual journal for medicine, for doctors, for people studying human behavior. The name of the journal is Nature. It's Nature Human Behavior. So that's the name of it right there. But here's the point I'm trying to make. on the 23rd of June. Well, that's just a week and a half ago, right? So there was an article in there I was reading. I found it very fascinating. And basically, they were saying that shunning kills. It actually causes people to die. Did you know that? I never knew that. As a matter of fact, the art. Okay, we got to mute the phone lines here. We got some long phone lines open. We're just going to mute them here right now. And okay, getting some echo. All right. So, anyways, this Nature Human Behavior Journal, it was saying that when you isolate someone, and when you actually kind of make them lonely, which shunning does, right? That's isolation and loneliness. No one wants to speak to you. All your friends head for the mountains. They leave you hanging. That this actually can cause people to die. I never knew that. I know I've talked here on the six screens of people who have died from being shunned because they committed suicide, but I never knew that naturally a person could die because of being lonely and because of being isolated. So this monthly journal, it's dedicated to the best research into human behavior. And this is what they said. Now, this isn't some slouch magazine that you get a subscription to and have it mailed to you every week like People magazine. This is a reputable journal. And they're saying that both social isolation and loneliness are significantly associated with an increase of risk of all cause mortality. You say, well, what is all cause mortality? Well, these are epidemiologists. Generally, they study disease, right? We heard a lot about epidemiologists during COVID, but also as these epidemiologists, as they study human behavior and diseases and how people die, they're really beginning to see that this idea of shunning or isolating people is actually causing death. Now, they took a survey, and this wasn't a survey by 25, 30 people. Over 2 million individuals were surveyed and studied over the years, and this is their finding. It just came out in the last week and a half. So Watchtower, they know how dangerous shunning is. It's like you're dead. They make you lonely, they make you depressed, they isolate you. Now I'm going to add another thing to Watchtower killing people. They kill people through people not taking blood transfusions. They kill people when they just fellowship them and people commit suicide. And they're killing people here now. And Watchtower knows this. That's how serious shunning is and isolating. What a terrible organization to do that to people. And, I mentioned, and I want to mention it again. I'm now going to go on the record. I'm going to tell you that the Jehovah's Witness organization is responsible for more deaths than all of the cults that we know put together. And we talked about this Nairobi, Kenya cult, a pastor over there just in the news in the last couple of weeks. There's up to 600 people that have died, they're finding. They think the numbers are going to go up to 1,000. And this is a so-called counterfeit Christian cult as well. The pastor's preaching that in order to see Jesus, you have to starve yourself to death. Now, who in goodness name's sake is going to believe something like that? But I mean, they do. So they're now thinking could be upwards of 1,000 or more people that have starved themselves to death because they wanted to see Jesus. So, when you stop and think about it, you say, wow, so that made headlines. It was in headlines all over the world last week. And then you talk about Jim Jones down in Central America, where he had the People's Temple, where I believe it was 912. I'm not sure. I think it was somewhere around there people had died. But this is nothing compared to how many people are dying in the Watchtower. It's just because it's not all happening at once. A few here, a few there. But you add it up over the decades, I'm talking about thousands of people have given their life up because of being involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, I'll tell you what, there's so many things that we talk about here on the news every week, and we want to talk about what's going on in the news concerning the conventions, the exercise patients conventions. And you know what the Watchtower is doing? They are making an all out effort, and it's got to be paid puff pieces. A lot of the local news stations have been reporting on the Jehovah's Witnesses meeting for their exercise patients convention. And, these news stations, I looked at one on, we're not going to play it here. We don't have time, but I played it last night out of Michigan, Lansing, Michigan. It was on the news up there. And, they'll take a minute, 2 minutes to talk all about the witnesses and show pictures of the witnesses coming in and setting up the stage and the big TVs. This is, they don't do this for everybody. This is a puff piece. I'm sure Watchtower paid them. So they give a real, all the witnesses haven't met in 3 years, and now they're coming back. They haven't met because of COVID. Now they're coming back in person, and everyone's so excited. That's a bunch of propaganda. And so that's up in Lansing. And then also this week, another puff piece coming out of Greenville, South Carolina. The same thing. And it was so funny. There was a Jehovah's Witness brother on there. And he was talking about, oh, isn't it wonderful that Jehovah prepares food at the proper time, and how he's telling us to exercise patience. So I thought he was going to make reference to exercising patience because Armageddon isn't here yet. Oh, no, 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 no. Well, what he was saying is exercise patience when you're in traffic, exercise patience when you're in line. No comment about how much patience the witnesses have got to be exercising, waiting for Armageddon to come. So I found that very fascinating. So that was out of Greenville, South Carolina. And then, of course, there was even another one coming out of Baltimore, Maryland. Another convention down there, regional convention report. And I have to tell you, all these convention reports, people are sending me emails like crazy. They're sending me pictures. I'm getting pictures of arenas. I'm getting pictures of parking lots. Nothing good. The Watchtower is really tanking. Now, let's take a look at Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland, the Exercise Patients Convention 2023. They were in an arena that holds upwards of 5,500 people. Well, on Friday afternoon, they had 2,400, and Saturday's attendance was 2,593. And on Sunday, which is usually the biggest day for the conventions for the witnesses, they brought in 2,666 people. So that's far short of the 5,500 seats. So a lot of empty seats there, friends. And also, let me just say this. That was in Baltimore, Maryland. Have you ever been there? Well, that's where the Baltimore Orioles baseball team plays. As a matter of fact, the witnesses many a times held conventions at Memorial Stadium right there in Baltimore. And that's got to hold 50, 60,000 people. No convention there this year. I mean, think about it. Well, what the witnesses are doing now, I mean, they're mentioning here a few little civic centers like this one in Baltimore, but it's not Memorial Stadium like they used to work on and have. They're doing a lot of their conventions, regional conventions now are being held in assembly halls. Yeah, the Watchtower, they're not going to stick their neck out and get some big arena like Memorial Stadium, a Yankee Stadium, a Fenway Park. They're not going to do it. A Wrigley Field, they're not going to do it. Why? Because they're not going to fill it. And the Watchtower knows. And I have to tell you, this is a barometer. This is a barometer right now. The Watchtower officials, they are watching the convention reports. They are looking to see how many seats are being filled. They are disappointed right now. They know that something is badly happening in the Jehovah's Witness organization. So, seriously, when we think about it, I'm not here, making stories up. I'm getting This is like a clearinghouse. The Six Screens has become like UPI. I get all every day, even every night. I got people sending me all kinds of and anything that goes on in the world, the witnesses, people are sending it here because they know we do the news. And I want to thank everyone for doing that. And you're keeping us right up to date on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So I'm not going to get, I mean, there's a lot here to cover. I'm not going to get too deep into all of this, but I just wanted to say that I did get information from one sister who attended a convention. She didn't tell me where it was, though. Some of the witnesses, they're still nervous, even though they're out of the organization, they're still afraid. But, anyways, the information she gave me, she said that she went to the convention all 3 days, and she was saying that the witnesses have a short attention span in this modern era. A short attention span. She said that all of the talks are all like video based. They have these emotional videos playing along with the talk, and what it does is it plays on people's emotions more than just somebody getting up there and talking. But she said that they're not taking any deep dive into doctrine. Instead, it's all about feelings. It's all about feelings. And also, she said that they're trying to really engender fear. Really, she said it wasn't uplifting at all. In fact, she said when she left, it was depressing and upsetting. But this thing, what this sister said here, she said it's all about feelings and emotion. It's not about research and doctrinal depth. It's all about feelings and emotions. The songs, they're so Disney-esque, and they sing and they sound beautiful. And even their videos, I have to tell you, I don't like to say too many good things about Watchtower, but they do a good job on their videos. And it's emotion. It gets people sucked into it. But as she said, though, the amount of people was incredibly small. And I have to tell you, these are not your grandfather's conventions anymore. If you can remember, in the 80s and the 90s, they were filling stadiums, as we just said, 50,000 people plus at some of these stadiums. And now it's not that at all. They're getting nowhere near those numbers. So things are changing in the Watchtower. Let's move on. Let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, she also, they're writing me here, telling me the conventions are very exhausting. There's a thought here too that I really like. I want to read this to you. I found this online of a person who was making comments about the conventions, and the person said that everyone spends 3 days performing an act. And they were saying this is why so many people get so exhausted going to a Jehovah's Witness convention. Everyone spends 3 days performing an act. Well, what does she mean by that? Well, the cult requires masking your true feelings. Now, think about it. When you went to a convention, didn't you mask your true feelings? People would come up. How are you, Brother Farron? Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you. I hope you're good. I mean, that's what you would have to do because we were supposed to be the happiest people on the planet. So when you go to a convention, this cult, Jehovah's Witnesses, they make you mask your true feelings. From the moment that you get there, you have to pretend that you are excited. You have to pretend that you are spiritually encouraged and enlightened. Not the case, but you have to pretend it, right? And you have to just kind of let them believe that everything is being said on the platform is so wonderful. That's not the truth. So this cult persona that you have to wear going into the convention, it wears off after a while. It does. It wears off after a while, and you become your real self. This is what's tiring. This makes you tired. It's tired acting and trying to look so excited when you're bored to death. So, the witnesses that they did. In fact, all of the reports I had coming in here from the six screens, all of the people said everyone looks so bored. They no longer have that euphoric way about them. Remember those Leica conventions in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s? People were euphoric. They were very excited to hear what the Watchtower had to say. But when all of these people now are looking around and they're seeing all of these empty seats, well, what do you think's going through their mind? And the husband and wife, they might have some kids with them. So on the way home, gee, honey, did you see all the empty seats? They're not excited anymore. And you think their kids are going to be excited about it? Absolutely not. So, anyways, we'll move on. Enough about the conventions. Let's see what's going on behind the. Well, okay. Watchtower is losing their power. Did you know that? Did you know the Watchtower really is dead? It just hasn't fallen over yet. Well, I'm so thankful that I did receive some information from a recent elders school. You know how the elders always meet around November, Thanksgiving time? Well, I got some information that came in here to the six screens, and this elder who went to the school last, well, it would have been 2022 November, and he went to the school and he's revealing here how quickly the Watchtower is declining. Isn't that good news? Don't you love to hear that? So the Watchtower quickly is declining. And, anyways, there was a circuit overseer at the elder school that was giving some information. Now, the statistics were given to show that they really need to train younger brothers. There's not enough brothers that are reaching out for a position in the Watchtower, and they're having a difficult time doing that. Now, I'm going to read you some figures here. Now, I want you just to stop and think about these figures. It's very important. Very important. Etch this in your brain because these figures are going to tell us the future of the Watchtower. In the United States branch territory, there are 124,652 elders. You got that? 124,652 elders. Now, I'm going to break it down to how old. I'm going to give you some groups here. So we have over 100,000 elders. Now, I'm going to give you a bracket. I'm going to give you a percentage of these brackets that these brothers are in. So we have elders that are 60 years and older. That represents 47% of all of the elders in the United States branch. All of the elders in the United States branch are 60 years or older. And now 21% of the elders are 50 to 60. So we can see a good percentage here, 47, 57, 67, 68, 68, 69% here are over 60, 50 to older. Okay, so that's a big percentage. So then we have 19% that are 40 to 50, and we have 30 years and younger, only 2%. I want that to sink into your head. So if you look at the United States branch office and you see these elders, you go into any Kingdom Hall around the country, only 2% of the elders are 30 years and under. What's going to happen in the future? I mean, there's no future here. They're going to need brothers. Nobody's reaching out. The percentage is way small. So what's going to happen in the coming years? What is going to happen? And so the circuit overseer was saying that one congregation in particular he visited, that they were using sisters for handling the mics, the Zoom meetings, for handling a lot of the things that ministerial servants used to do. So you can see that. Look, what I try to do is gather intelligence, like the CIA. Sometimes little things you hear can show the temperament of what's going on in the organization. So when you see a lot of sisters handling mics, getting people on Zoom, it shows you the brothers aren't reaching out. So this is a big, big concern for the Watchtower. And then the other concern, the circuit overseer, he says he's going to have to get the whip out because nobody wants to go back to the meeting. I mean, not in essence everybody, but a lot of people are not wanting to go back to in-person meetings. They get used to meeting on Zoom. Zoom is the great cult killer. That's what I feel. It's killing this organization. And thanks to Zoom, I say COVID is the great cult killer. Did I say Zoom? I meant to say COVID is the great cult killer. And because people got on Zoom and now they don't want to go back to the meeting. So they're being urged. The COs are cracking the whip and they're urging the witnesses to return to in-person meetings. Let's end it there. We do have about 5 or 10 minutes here to go. I'm going to just see if anyone has any thoughts. Anyone want to bring up anything that you heard here on the news today? You're on with us. Go ahead, say hello to us.
Hey, Rick, I told you a long time ago that Watchtower is like Sears. You know how they were the biggest and the baddest. They had a machine, but they kept getting rid of their top sellers. They got rid of everything that made them great. And that's what Watchtower is. When you look at it from a business perspective, they just get rid of the writers. Like, say, for example, the writers. It's too expensive to have them. Well, from a business perspective, it shows that their magazines and their talks have been watered down. We all see that. But what I'm trying to say is that Watchtower, in my opinion, because I've been telling you this for years, is like Sears and Radio Shack. They're still around, but the CEOs, and Watchtower has 9 or 10 CEOs, they're all governing body. No one's in charge. And so they can't really reorganize. They can't really move this organization in any direction because you got 9, 10 captains and they're all trying to ride the ship. You know, and this is why, like, successful businesses or successful religions, you'll have one person who pushes in one direction, good or bad, but at least they're successful. And I think that's what we can liken Watchtower to, is because we've seen it with our own eyes, the demise of Radio Shack and Sears, and the same parallels happening with Watchtower. They're getting rid of all of their good people.
Oh, I love the way you sound, Gilbert, because I feel exactly the same way. So sometimes, people think, oh, they're too big to go under. Oh, they've been around too long. They're not going to go under. Well, you're right. Radio Shack's a good example. Sears is a good example. Kmart is a good example. And what about Enron? That's another good example. I mean, there's so many companies that were so big, and now all of a sudden they're not even here anymore. And that could also happen to the Watchtower. And as I said earlier, they're dead. They just haven't fallen over yet. Well, thank you, Gilbert. Always good to hear from GGB. Yes, yes. All right. So who else would like to speak up? You're on with us right now. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Mike.
Well, I was just going to mention real quick, Rick. You mentioned about it being 4th of July coming up. I just got to say, I said they're going to turn that 4th of July. That's a racist holiday. So they're going to replace that with that new holiday Biden made up, June 19th. All the founding fathers owned a bunch of slaves. America's founded on slavery. They're going to get rid of 4th of July.
Yeah, you know what?
Replace it with June 19th.
Well, now let's just slow down for a second. Do you have?
I'm serious. People have said that.
I know, but I mean, is that the only thing that's on your mind on the 4th of July? You're afraid they're going to change it in the June 19th? I mean, you're going to be thinking other things. No?
Rick, you watch the news, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a country, we live in a country that they think 2 men can marry. We live in crazy times, Rick.
Well,
we're living in crazy times, Rick.
Well, I have to admit they are crazy times. They really, really are.
Bring that up. I wanted to just say this. It was in the Boston area. I can't remember the town now. I was so proud. There was some kids in a middle school. They fought back. They fought back against the fags on the LGBT Pride Month, and I'm sure you saw it on the news. My hat's off to them. It was there in
Yeah, no, it was right here in Boston. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so all of a sudden here, but you know what's going to happen here, Mike, and I really, I really believe that, and then I understand where you're coming from, and there's two sides of the story on all of this, and people are taking positions, but I think that what's happening here is it's overboard. It's really overboard. So they got to calm down a little bit and just let people make their own decisions. I'm glad the Supreme Court came out just this week. You read it, I'm sure you did. And there was a woman. She was a Christian woman, and she did not want to be involved in getting involved with people that wanted her services that weren't people that were spoken about. Yeah,
The way things, Rick, is correct. The way things go. Well, I live in Michigan. They just passed a law here in Michigan in the state. I guess it's got to go to the state senate. They're passed the law. They're going to make it a felony to misgender somebody. If somebody with a transgender, you misgender somebody, it could be like a felony with $10,000 fine, possibly go to prison for 5 years. I mean, no, I heard someone say, I'm not making this up, Rick. I mean, people may think I'm crazy. I listened to some right-wing people. They said within 5 to 10 years, I'm serious. They said they could see the 4th of July being banned, at least in like a blue state, Democratic state. I mean, we're living in times that are just.
Well, we're seeing, and you're a young enough man. You're seeing a lot of things change right before your eyes, as I am as well.
I've seen it in my whole life, Rick. I'm not that old. I'm 42. Okay, I would remember. I think back. I think about, remember when 911 happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So just imagine, do you remember how people treated police officers? Oh, they're heroes. Oh, they're heroes. Police officers now, they're treated like
no, they don't want to be cops. Hey, all right. Well, listen, we're just about out of time. I know what you're saying. And if we had more time, we'll discuss a little more. But thank you, Mike, for calling in. Thank you for calling in. All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. Thank you. All right. Well, that's Mike out of Michigan, but we know his position on things, and he's got a right to speak up too. Not everybody is totally in agreement with him, but he does have a right to speak up here in the Six Lanes. All right. Well, we're going to go to the Christian court. We don't want you to leave us now. Have you listened to the Christian court? That program is gaining a lot of momentum. And, it's all about what we do in the Christian court. There's nothing really that's going to keep you out of the kingdom. But Christians differ in certain interpretations. They have certain peculiarities that are viewed in their way of thinking. And that's what we discuss here on the Christian court that's coming up next. So by all means, stay with us. And thank you all for coming into JW World News. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower. Please turn off the new light. We'll see you at the court coming up next. Thank you.